Kyle's dangerous dance, lured by deceit, blinded by ambition. From the outside, Kyle Abbott seemed to be regaining his footing, his charm, his ambition, and even a chance at love. His whirlwind romance and marriage to Clare Grace had promised stability, a redemption he hadn't known since his tumultuous past with Summer. But unbeknownst to Kyle, he was merely a pawn in a far darker game, orchestrated not by affection, but by Victor Newman's cold calculation for power and control. At the heart of this manipulation stood Audra Charles. With her signature red lips, steely gaze, and poised confidence, Audra was Victor's perfect operative, smart, seductive, morally ambiguous, and fiercely loyal to her own advancement. She didn't need to love Kyle to use him. In fact, the absence of genuine emotion made her mission easier. Victor suspected Clare's transformation was incomplete, her loyalty to the Newman dynasty shaky. By driving a wedge between Kyle and Clare, Victor could test Clare's stability, expose her vulnerabilities, and, if necessary, eliminate her entirely. Audra was his scalpel, carefully severing the threads of trust until Kyle stood isolated, confused, and utterly dependent on Audra's twisted version of the truth. To the world, Kyle and Audra's interactions appeared strictly professional, a collaboration on projects for Chancellor, Winters, and Newman Media. There were late-night strategy sessions, board meetings, and corporate events that often ended with drinks and whispers. But Clare, who had tried to offer Kyle space and trust, grew increasingly unnerved. She noticed the growing intimacy, the ease with which Audra touched Kyle's arm, the possessiveness in her lean, the faint but unmistakable scent of Audra's perfume clinging to Kyle's suits. Clare's instincts screamed that something was deeply wrong. She wasn't acting as a jealous wife, but as a woman desperate to protect her love from being dismantled by insidious lies. Kyle, for his part, wasn't wholly innocent, yet he hadn't fully crossed the line. Not yet. The undeniable magnetism between him and Audra fed a part of him that craved validation and excitement. Audra made him feel wanted in a way Clare's quiet affection sometimes failed to. But he still loved Clare. He remembered her wedding night tears, her fierce fight for his forgiveness, and her fragile tenderness. He hadn't forgotten what they had built. He was simply losing sight of it, intoxicated by flattery, ego, and deceit. Clare's silent vigil, the moment of shattering truth. Clare couldn't rely on suspicion alone. She needed proof. She meticulously checked Kyle's calendar, scrutinized his phone. One evening, she overheard Kyle mention a specific suite number during a hushed phone call at a boutique hotel they had once shared. The familiarity stung. If he was meeting Audra there, an emotional line had already been crossed. Clare didn't cry. She didn't confront him. Instead, with a chilling resolve, she booked a room on the floor below and waited. That night, everything unfolded with eerie precision. Audra arrived first, slipping into the room. She didn't turn on lights, didn't pour a drink. She merely settled, hidden, her breathing steady, expression unreadable. It wasn't fear, it was cold, calculated control. Minutes later, Kyle entered, loosening his tie, expecting a quiet evening. But what began as a work recap swiftly transformed into an embrace, then a kiss hesitant at first, then urgent. Clothes slipped to the floor, bodies pressed close, breath mingled. And all the while, Clare watched from a hidden camera she'd secretly installed through the hotel's security system. Her face was pale, her chest hollow. It didn't matter that they hadn't made it to the bed. It didn't matter that Kyle had whispered, "Are you sure?" or that Audra had briefly hesitated. The betrayal was complete in the way he kissed her, touched her face, and utterly forgot Clare's existence. In that moment, Audra felt no guilt. This was the apex of her assignment. She had breached the barrier. She could now pull back, feign confusion or hurt, making Kyle question himself and drawing him deeper into a web of emotional ambiguity. Victor would be pleased. Clare would be discarded. And Kyle would become exactly what Victor wanted. A man in need of rebuilding, of new purpose, of new allegiance. The aftermath: guilt, revelation, and Clare's quiet vow of destruction. But something shifted that night. As Kyle stared at himself in the mirror, shirtless and shaken, he couldn't lie. He had crossed a line. It wasn't about sex, it was about intimacy, seeking something in Audra he should have protected with Clare. He didn't know Audra's full motives, didn't suspect Victor's deep involvement, but for the first time, he doubted Audra's sincerity. Her eyes were too cold, her smile too composed. She hadn't trembled when he kissed her. She hadn't even closed her eyes. And when she left, she didn't look back. That more than anything haunted him. Clare didn't confront Kyle immediately. She needed to understand why. Was it power? Insecurity? Or something darker? She began tracing Audra's recent movements and was stunned by what she uncovered. Encrypted messages linked to Victor's private channels, a suspicious trip to Newman Tower, a phone call from Tucker that abruptly ended at Clare's mention. The web of deceit was far wider than she imagined. Kyle wasn't just betraying her, he was being used. What Clare did next would redefine everything. She didn't scream. She didn't demand answers. Instead, she made a quiet vow to destroy the entire plan from within. She would not only expose Audra but ensure Victor knew underestimating her was his gravest mistake. And as for Kyle, if he truly regretted his actions, if he held even a flicker of desire to save what they had, he would have to fight for it not with flowers or apologies, but with truth, transparency, and a willingness to see Audra for what she truly was, the venom-wearing perfume. The game had changed. The lines were drawn. In Genoa City, love was never just love. It was a battlefield of power, legacy, and survival. Clare, once underestimated, the girl with a dark past, was about to become the storm no one saw coming.